Hello and welcome to Talkin' Baseball. Ouch! Willson Contreras gets hit. Some potential trades. And we got the whole three of us today. The Blue Man Group. Hello and welcome to Talkin' Baseball, presented to you by SeatGeek. Code Talkin10. Go check that out. They're still rolling that promotion. Trevor Plouffe and Kalinasti, BBD behind the dish, and Jimmy O'Brien here with us as we get into, a hot topic. All the baseball fans seeing Willson Contreras getting hit last night. That was brutal. Excited to unpack that a little bit. We had some articles going back to last week, Kenny R, and I don't know, people are starting to daydream of the trade deadline. It's May 8th. Your team's in it or out of it pretty soon. And some other happenings around the league. A couple outside-the-box thoughts might be coming at the end of the episode. James, how are you?
I am doing well. Outside-the-box thoughts, huh?
Yeah, I got one. It's building off of one of Trev's thoughts. So
wow,
yeah,
interesting. Yeah. Trev, you built the box, and he's going to go outside it.
How are you?
I am doing well. I am trying to figure out who's at fault for Contreras breaking his arm. I think it's Contreras, but who forced him to do it? You know, trying to really figure it out.
Who's the root problem?
Yeah. What's the fix?
Trevor?
Everything is great with me. I'm actually very excited for this episode. We're all here having a good time. I do have some sad news. I have developed this is actually a true story. You know, we put in a lot of work for these shows and we sacrifice a lot, and sometimes you just got to give your body up as well. So I come out here, you know, I'm in my backyard. I don't know if I have insulation in these walls. I think I do, but I'm not really sure. It gets cold out here. So I have a space heater, right?
Sure.
Space heater's always in the same place. Feels real nice on my legs. The problem is I've developed, I'm being serious right now. I've developed erythema ab igni, also known as toasted skin syndrome, on my left leg.
You've burnt yourself?
To you. Yes.
Does it look gross?
It's like you can look this up. It's like your skin gets like almost like blotchy. It looks like a rash, but it's not raised. Doesn't really itch, but it's like discolored, and I've
spell it for everyone at home.
I can't. It's
no. Spell it so we can all Google it.
Oh, okay. It's ERYTHEMA and then AB and then IGNE.
Those are two separate words. When you see this type, I know that like what you're saying is true, but when you see the letters you just sent me, like when you actually visualize it, that's not words.
I think it's Latin, James.
Erythema ab igni.
Yeah, I've developed that. Seriously, yesterday I was outside. I was like, why does my leg look so weird? And then I sent a picture to my mom and my sister, who are both nurses, and they're like, okay, this is what it is. And they're like, what have you been doing? Yeah, like blotchy kind of skin like that. Mine's like almost like a little worse, though. And
so you toasted yourself,
yes,
Michael Scott style.
I've toasted myself. I have the heater in the same spot. It just blows on my left leg. It feels great. But over time, I've now developed this, and now I have to get rid of my heat source, and maybe it'll go away. That's what the doctor said. So,
Latin for loser that burnt his own leg.
Blood, sweat, tears, and skin miscoloring.
Guess it's an injury ep today.
All for the people.
For everyone tuning into the YouTube, I think we currently have 7 colors of blue represented, from robin's egg to navy and everything in between. Multiple blues on everyone. And I guess we'll keep the injuries rolling, Trev, because you mentioned what you're going through, and prayers in the comment section, please. We hope you stop burning yourself. But we always wonder where the baseball news is going to come from, and last night, William Contreras gets cracked by JD Martinez. You see instantly the bad reaction. He does a shake and run around, and it's one of those, our Zoe from We Got Ice this morning was saying, like, man, like, these guys have actual pain thresholds. Like, that's got to stink. And we're seeing a lot more of this in baseball. And Jim, I think I want to kick off with you first because I'm a simple guy at the end of the day, and I think you summed it up best in your tweet last night. There's two basic things happening. Hitters are standing further back in the box, as far back as they can to counter velo, and catchers are coming up as far as possible to try to steal the low strike. And I think almost anyone can do that math, that's going to lead to more problems. So where are you at?
Yeah, it's batters have always stood as far back as possible because you want the most time. Like, a lot of batters erase that back line. But I'll let Trev talk about that because he was a batter that did that. But just looking at the footage, catchers are getting so close because you want to steal the strike. You want to catch it in front of the umpire's eyes, let it travel the furthest distance because as it travels more, it goes lower. So you want to grab it while it's in the strike zone. That's what they're taught. And you're getting not only this, but the backswing. Like Contreras got hit on Happ's backswing last year. Ozuna's been hitting catchers like a crazy rate on his backswing. And, last year people were getting upset by that, but like Michaels got upset at Happ. So I think people are trying to figure out, like, a lot of people in the replies were saying this is how it gets regulated. Someone gets hurt. And it's like, it kind of stinks because he already got hit in the head last year and was bleeding and that didn't stop him. So I don't know if you can regulate it. There's boxes. Does the catcher have to let the ball travel? Will this just be erased once automatic umpires get here and framing is no longer part of the game? Or is it something we have to attack? Trev, what do you think?
I mean, yes, it depends on the erasure. If we get a full automated, ball and strike system, then yes, the framing will no longer be needed. If it's still a challenge, if it becomes a challenge system the way it is in AAA, I still think framing will be valued because you only get so many challenges, and I'm very curious to see, what major league teams will do with that. I had a discussion with Rocco Baldelli about it. And he's like anti-challenge because he thinks that hitters and pitchers won't be able to contain themselves, and they're just going to be like, okay, challenge, which part of me thinks could be true depending on the person. Like these guys, man, they,
we only get so many.
Some of the baseball guys have egos and like they think they're right all the time. I'm not talking about myself, Jake. I saw your eyes right there.
Making a living.
Don't do that.
Making a living.
So yeah, I think framing eventually will not be as important as we do get at least a challenge system or a full automated strike zone. Then yeah, you just sit back there and what do you do? What are catchers gonna do if we go full ABS?
Get them a chair, save them knees.
No, seriously, like if there's nobody on base, they might just sit down, like or kneel on ball. I don't even know. I can't wait to see what happens, but it is interesting to me because when you look at the picture, I don't know if Beavers, do you have that picture like the James tweeted out last night? It's one side angle, and it really shows just how close Contreras was to JD Martinez. And JD Martinez, he's had multiple catcher's interference calls on him over the year. I mean, this is crazy. Like they are so close. Like I honestly don't know who to blame here. I think both of them are at fault because Contreras he's on his back leg. Now, JD is one of those guys, like you mentioned, James, is way, way back in the box. And I sent this to you last night, and I was like, is he 4 or 5 inches behind the white line, the batter's box? And we couldn't really figure it out. You sent me this one, like, way up top shot that looked like he was on the line. But that's what these guys do. The first thing they'll do is they'll get in the box. The guys that stand in the back, they'll get in the box, and they'll just kick the line out. And they're just saying, oh, I'm just getting my footing in the back. All they're trying to do is get the chalk line out so they can get as far back as possible. Because you mentioned you want to combat velo. You want to be able to see the ball as long as possible. Meanwhile, the catchers are getting up closer so they can catch the ball as close as possible. It's a bad recipe for this. And it's actually shocking to me that this, and it has happened more. Catcher's interference has happened more. But, I mean, this broken arm can happen nightly with the way things are going. So I do not like guys standing that far back in the box. I do not like them kicking the line out. I think there's got to be some way to combat that. I think there needs to be some sort of line where the catcher's glove can go to. That's it. And here, like, I know we already have a batter's box, but we need to maybe enforce that a little bit more because, like I said, like the very first thing these guys will do, and you can watch the leadoff hitters of every single game. If they're a person that likes to stand in the back of the box, that's what they're doing. They're just going to go kick the back of the box out for everybody else, and then we start the game. So, like, there are some simple things to fix this, but that hasn't been enforced like ever. Like, when's the last time we ever saw an umpire say, "Hey, man, get in the freaking box"? Like, it just doesn't happen, and I'm not really sure why it doesn't happen. I mean, I don't know if it's one of those things that everybody wants to do it, so they don't want to tell on the other team because their team is doing it. Right. I think that might be it.
I mean, it should be one of the most enforced rules, like
right?
where you have to stand when you hit.
I don't know.
I tweeted out a tweet last night. Like, I just quote tweeted one because I wanted to see more pictures to see if anyone posted more pictures. So I just Googled or I searched on Twitter Martinez, Contreras, and then hit like pictures. And I found one from last year. It was the different Contreras. It was his brother, but it was like JD's got 2 defensive or catcher interferences already. Look how far back he is. And then someone, the comment of the video, which I didn't even really like read, was saying the rule is this. So I had a lot of people upset with me for sharing the wrong interpretation of the rule. But I was just sharing it like, oh shit, look at this. Someone like said this was a problem last year with these 2 players, even though it's a brother, not a cat, whatever. But I want to clarify, MLB reached out and told me like that rule's wrong. And I was like, yeah, sorry, I didn't intend for that to be what was taken away from sharing that. The batter, as the rule states, can, as long as he has a fucking toenail on the line, he's in the box.
Yeah.
So in those pictures, if the ball of Martinez's foot is touching white, it's legal per the current rule.
Get that picture back up. What kind of batter's box is that? Looks like someone just took like that's the thinnest batter's box I've ever seen in my life. What are we doing here?
Okay.
Looks like I drew it.
That was another common reply that I don't know. And my only guess is we're at Dodger Stadium. Like, was this a rain delay and they redid the lines in between games with spray paint? But someone in the
trapezoid. I know what a trapezoid is.
Someone in the replies was like, that's AI. This picture's AI. That's fake box. And I looked at it and I was like, what is that batter's box? It's from a game in 2023 last year.
In LA?
Well, they're wearing Dodger white, right?
Yeah.
The tweet's from August 16th of 23.
Looks like a funky camera lens a little bit. Like almost nothing about it looks right.
It is like a phone picture of a TV.
Oh, okay. So
probably something with that, but it still looks misshapen.
The line length already. August of 2023, you said?
August 16th, 2023 is the date of that tweet. Don't know if this was that night before.
I think it was that night. I'll see if I can find another picture see if Dodgers have messed up lines.
You're a sensor guy. That's what people know you as. That's the guy that loves sensors in sports. We can't have sensors for stuff like this. Like, hey, man, your back foot is too far back.
Well, that's the thing. I think by the letter of the law, JD wasn't. And that's where let's try to get to some solutions because I think that's where it can be fun and creative. I'm gonna start way too creative, and this is kind of what I was talking about. Trev, when you were talking about the Pete Alonso play with the sliding into home plate, and you were talking about a home plate that kind of rises and falls. Like, what if the batter's box, I realize now you can stand on the chalk, but what if the batter's box had like a mound to it that like you had to be actually in the batter's box?
Like a ridge, you could push off that back.
That went up and down with the plate. Again, that's starting to get into a lot of technology, but I mean, is the answer here not like catchers, you have to be here, hitters, you have to be here, and we just need to enforce that better, whether it's the current rules or updated rules?
The problem
I think enforcing it means something.
The problem lies with coaching and this new philosophy of stealing strikes and putting people at risk. Like, Beebs, can you share my screen? Do we have that? Because I want to show, because this is, Contreras is being taught to do this recently. And he got hit in the head, and, you know, maybe he's like, hey, I don't like this. But or he did it on his own. But when he went to the Cardinals, he changed where he set up in his spot and started getting way up in the batter's ass. And when you have batters that lunge forward, don't let the ball travel that much. So this is when he's catching in St. Louis as a Cub. That's where his glove is, if you can see that. Like, his glove's right there. Or I'll put it as knee. That little line. And then this is the next year.
Same shot.
I lined up the dugout, the Geico sign and the other sign. The railing is in the same exact spot. Look how much forward. So this is where he was before he went to the Cardinals. And then everyone wants to steal strikes. And now look how much forward he is. That's insane.
That is insane.
And then this was last night with JD. Again, like the railing, I toggled that so it's all matched. So, yeah, that's crazy.
It's just a bad matchup of players, like those two guys in particular, because JD, not only does he get way back in the box, but he's one of the guys that all he wants to do is get his bat in the, like, get his pass started early, way back in the back of the zone and keep it all the way through the zone. He wants to get there early and stay there late. So you got a guy, you know, putting his hands back here. You got a catcher reaching his hand up there, and it is crazy. There's actually quotes too from Marmol, which, you know, I'm not blaming this on him. It sounds like I am, but he says it's a huge risk, and it was talked about in the offseason and a topic of discussion because there were more catcher's interference calls because they were evaluated on framing. The closer they're able to get to the hitter to get that low pitch, it's definitely a topic of conversation. The risk is high, and we just experienced it.
God damn it, baseball's so stupid. Why are we letting people intentionally risk injury because tricking old men is a skill set we want?
That's exactly what it is. You're tricking an old man with bad eyes.
It's an impossible task, and now we're tricking them to make it even harder so we can have the ejections and all the hullabaloo, which is fun. I enjoy it, sure. But like when Marmol says, yeah, we know it's a risk of injury, but it helps steal the strikes. Well, none of that is an issue. That's so stupid. But
well, he's saying this is the thing. He's saying it's a risk of catcher's interference. He's not even thinking about injury. Like, it's just about, it's going to affect our team. They're going to get on first base. Well, it's like also you could break someone's hand and or forearm. And
can you put my screen up again?
Oh, man.
For anyone who couldn't see this, I'm going to make it much easier. See that yellow dot? That's where his glove was as a Cub. And this is where his glove is as a fucking Cardinal. Just if you didn't really understand how much of a difference it is.
That's 3 feet.
Insane.
That's crazy, bro.
So let's fix that. Let's not make that a strategy that we like are proudful. Because you got backswings going on catchers' heads all the time.
Yeah, I used to not like guys that went in the back of the box. And then I think now, like, maybe I should have been in the back of the box. I was in the middle of the box. And the only reason I was like that, and I think it was just something I developed when I was younger, like when you play youth baseball, you know, the box isn't taken care of. So where everyone stands, there's usually like massive holes. Anyone that's played baseball has experienced that. You get into the batter's box, there's just 2 massive holes where everyone's feet goes. And I hated that. I couldn't stand that. So I just moved up. Instead of back, I moved up. So now my back foot was like kind of in the middle of the box, and my front foot was almost out of the front of the box. Like, what an idiot I was. I should have moved back, and I moved forward instead. And surprise, I never had a catcher's interference call on me.
Never. Good for you.
Never. Because I was up in the box like an idiot.
How often did you catch guys with like a follow-through?
Never.
Never?
I never caught a guy with a follow-through. I never had a catcher's interference call
because
every
catcher's dream, man.
Yeah, they were stealing strikes on me my whole career. Like, I really fucked myself.
Yeah, standing in a hole stunk.
Yeah.
It's the worst, dude.
Hitting out of the hole.
And then when there was rain and then that hole was a puddle. So now you got to, do I go closer or do I go further?
People, and then you get to the field on youth fields in particular, and like let's say they drag it or raked it, and it was just loose dirt in those holes. It wasn't like they packed it down. So like, oh, this box looks nice, and then you get in there and your foot just sinks down because it's just loose dirt. It's a problem. I mean,
tell me how that feels.
What to do with
tell me how that feels when you're a 5'4", 200-pound freshman.
You were 5'4", 200?
Sophomore year. Yeah, I was. They used to call me Meals on Wheels. I could fly.
Alejandro Kirk status.
Yeah, I was trying to change the game. Didn't work. I'm glad it worked for Kirky. So what are we doing? Box for the catchers? Can't come up here?
I don't know. I honestly, I don't. Because the catcher reaches, too.
Right.
The hitter should be given that space. As long as stealing a strike works and tricking old men at a very tough task already is a strategy we cling to, this is going to happen.
Yeah, I don't have a solution. I just hope that, I don't want this to happen anymore. So I hope catchers are looking at the situation being like, I don't want to break my arm. So maybe I'll just back up a little bit. Right? It's got to send shockwaves through the catching world. That you see this guy.
Dude, that's how people get contracts. It's the same as like the Glass now saying, I'm throwing hard, dude. I'm a radar slut.
I think it was yesterday. I think Trevino was on MLB Network, and it was all about his framing stats.
Yeah, the Yankees don't care about like blocking or throwing out runners now. All of their caught stealings, like I think 80% of them are from the pitcher catching the guy stealing. They just care about framing.
Can't even say for sure they like care that much about if the catcher hits.
Trevy's
hitting this.
Didn't we get a stat that was from a front office that was like if we steal 9 strikes a game, that's equivalent to a run or something like that?
I think.
So
yeah. Well, when
you're thinking about these, a lot of teams pride themselves on run prevention or just what they're valuing from the catcher position. And if you could get 1 run off 9 strikes, which you can steal that off a ump in 1 game, like to them, that's a catcher war of, a 50 war season. So I don't know. More rules.
I got a text back from Gibby. All I said was any retribution for last night, and he says no. He swings like that all the time when heaters beat him. He said at first I thought he was laughing going down the line, but then he realized he was just making a cringe face like, damn, I know that hurt. So
yeah,
that comes from Gibby, but he's also the nicest person that I've ever met. So
JD Martinez's quote, you're expecting to hit a ball, you hit an arm, and you're like, what was that? I hit meat. I felt I hit meat. That's a tough feeling. Yeah. That brings me back to freshman in high school, Jake. Hey, summer is here. 85 in the city today, maybe. Summer is here. Go get yourself a pair of Shady Rays. They're an independent sunglass company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for outdoor adventure. And you have them for life. They've got a lost and broken replacement guarantee, so if you lose them or you break them, they send you a new pair. Just like that. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Go to ShadyRays.com, use code TALKIN for 50% off 2+ pairs of premium polarized shades. And that offer applies to the custom Jimmy and Jake shades. I'm wearing mine right now. Saw someone at the stadium last night wearing them. Whoops. So go get yourself a pair today. Go get yourself a couple. ShadyRays.com, code TALKIN, 50% off.
Code TALKIN.
I actually saw a very well-dressed gentleman the other day, and I was like, oh, this guy looks good, like nice outfit. And as I got closer to him, as I was walking by him, I noticed he had Shady Rays on. I was like, of course he does.
Yeah. Shady Rays was with something big. I think they were a partner at the Derby over the weekend. So Shady Rays, John Boy Media and the Kentucky Derby, it's where you want to be.
We're obviously very big in Minneapolis.
Right.
Mall of America, big Shady Rays store.
Okay.
How about that?
Triple ad. Let's get into some some realistic daydream, maybe some not realistic daydreaming as we, I want to say approaching the trade deadline. Not so much, but we're hitting the time of year. We had the Arise trade go down. Marlins are out. White Sox are going to be out. Jimmy's working on trading all of them away if you haven't seen Jimmy's 3 things yet.
They're gone.
That Kenny Rosenthal came out with an article of the kind of maybe teams that we see a couple of these every year that it's like, damn, if they're out at the deadline and you can trade with these guys, it ends up leading to a better product at the end of the year because it's all the playoff teams bulking up, which we like. So with that, I know Dalton put down a few teams and a lot of teams from Kenny Rosenthal's article. I don't know if Dalton started with the Diamondbacks because Arizona was alphabetical or if Dalton's feeling a little salty about his Snakes right now. But Jim, I guess is there a team that I don't want to say you're rooting for to become a potential trade deadline plunder team, but are one of these teams jumping out that it's like, hey, this would be big for the season, or maybe they even want to sell? It could be better for their team if they end up selling.
There's surprise sellers that are interesting. That was the article that Kenny wrote. And, in it, he had teams that I would love as a Yankees fan to sell.
Right.
The Astros, the Blue Jays, and the Rays. I don't think the Rays are going to sell. I really don't think the Astros are unless it's really bad and they would have mutual conversations with Verlander, Bregman, Presley, and be like, hey, what do you want to do? Blah, blah, blah. Because I think there's a lot of respect between that team and all those players. But those conversations have happened before. I remember when the Orioles had it with Adam Jones. He's a free agent, and he said, no, I don't want to be traded. I don't want to uproot my family for 2 months and blah, blah, blah. Because other guys were like, yeah, let me go, win a championship. Remember when Lance Berkman got traded to the Yankees, and they were like, yeah, we talked to him, and he said he wanted to go chase a title. So the Astros would have to be terrible and then get traded. Blue Jays are really interesting because it would be that's their future, right? Some of these guys that are coming up, that was the window. If Vladdy, whose contract's up, doesn't get extended,
right,
and they're not in it, and they see we need to trade him because otherwise we're going to lose him for nothing. That is the end of a chapter for the Blue Jays. So just how dramatic I think that would be in wow, the Vladdy window's over.
Is kind of wild. Are they still in the window? I feel like they are still in the window, but is it the smallest window we've ever seen?
Everyone is still in the window in sorts. Something that I enjoyed trying to navigate was which teams are not a lock for the postseason and may do the trade early because they want to leave themselves still time to trade. I think the Blue Jays would fall in that window. If they were interested in a Rise, would they have gone and got him? Would they go get some of these other White Sox or Marlins players and try to get them before the window, a June trade or an early July trade to give themselves 3 weeks of, and this guy, let's see if he can help get us back in. I think the Astros are definitely going to add pieces because I think they're not going to try and trade at all. And the Royals were in on a Rise. So the Royals are looking to add early because I think they want to do that now to really push themselves so that they have time to do the double trade, which we've seen teams do a lot recently since the new rules.
I think that, well, first of all, the Blue Jays and Vladdy is so interesting to me. And I don't know if we're going to get to this article, but Jim Bowden had one talking about trading Vladdy to the Astros. I think that's a really interesting fit. But yeah, Vladdy has this year. He has next year as well. It's to me, they signed a bunch of pitchers up there. The rotation is strong. They still have Vladdy and Bo, I believe, both through 2025. Is Bo before, or is he also the same? I think
they're the same timeline. I think it's Bo, Vladdy. Who's it? Bassett is on that with his contract. Romano, I believe. So
Romano's got another left, I believe.
A chunk of the core.
it's like you almost can't, like you
After 25.
have built this roster up, and has it provided the fans with what they wanted? Probably not. I think they've underachieved in this quote unquote window, but you still have a full year of it to see what you're doing. I understand the haul will be different next August or next July. It's going to be way less, but like,
yeah, but they
if you trade Vlad,
yeah, they can get a lot for their rentals. Like Kikuchi's pitching well. I think Turner's hitting. And people always need like DHs or bench bats.
Those are different trades than throwing out Vladdy, and I think that does signal that we're trying to figure things out here. We don't believe in this roster essentially. But if you trade the rentals, Turner and guys that are done at the end of this year, I think that's,
you would have to have a team like in Bowden's article, the Astros really like going after him, wowing you with the deal. But yeah, a lot of the double year trades, I don't really see happening, especially with the Blue Jays. But I do see, they have the other guys to offer. That would be cool.
I'm interested in the Cardinals, man. We just their best player, their best hitter, the guy that's really been the most consistent player, is now out for how long? I mean, that's a 2-month injury at the earliest, I'd assume. You fracture your forearm like that. I mean, I went through that. That's not an easy path back. So you're sitting at the bottom of your division. You think the division's pretty dang good. There's some teams at the top there that are doing well. Are you going to get back into it? You just signed, 3 older pitchers this offseason. Like what direction do they go? Because they do have some like younger position players that I think that they really like, but you have guys sitting there. We already said Paul Goldschmidt's going to the Yankees next year. That's great for you guys. Happy for that. No, you don't want him?
I like Paul. I've got some other landing spots for him.
Oh, well, Jimmy already confirmed that he's going to the Yankees next year. But a guy like Nolan Arenado, who has 3 or 4 years left, like I think he's a very intriguing piece because his contract does seem, I mean, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for a guy that's, mid-30s now, but the Rockies are paying down some of this salary. So, this year's $35 million, but $5 million is getting paid by the Rockies. So it's 30 this year, then it's 32, $5 million paid for the Rockies. So you're paying 27 in 2025, where he's 34 years old. And then it goes down to 27, but the Rockies are paying $5 million. So now you're only paying 22 for him at 35 years old. And then in 2027, it's $15 million. So it's heading the way you want it to be heading as Arenado ages. I think a lot of teams would take him on. Like, he's still a very productive player, and he's a guy that you want, I think, would be a very good leader for a lot of different clubhouses. I'm curious to see if they try to unload both of those deals, a Goldschmidt and an Arenado deal, and then just kind of focus on, some of the younger guys they have and trying to reignite the roster, if you will.
Hit up the Rockies, see if they'll cover some of the tab. I mean, that could make the trade even easier for you. The Cardinals, for me, like, the AL East is gnarly, man. The Orioles aren't going to stop. Like, the Yankees, and this isn't Yankees BS, they had one of their worst teams ever. They still won 82 games last year. And now they feel like a new form of the Yankees. So those teams are going to be there in the end. The Red Sox hot start. I mean, if they keep pitching, that's always been the thing that I don't know. I think I've got the Rays circled as they're going to do something because they just operate different anyways. So the Rays could be a little above 500 and they could still cash in on an asset while move on to their next thing because that's what the Rays do. The Blue Jays, God, I don't know because it's what you guys were saying. If they're going to sell at this deadline, then you might want to just retool the whole thing because then it is one more year of Vladdy and Bichette.
They'd have to know or be thinking that they're going to extend those guys.
And you feel like those conversations would have been going on these past 3 years, that if those players are also 1 year away from free agency, that they probably want to test free agency. So those are the wild ones. And like you guys said with Houston, they got to turn it around. I mean, that it's been ugly. And I think the other thing that's in my head, and I know they've changed around some things in their front office, but like they've never, business-wise, they've made the moves. Like, remember, Correa was the number one bad guy. Like Houston with Correa, their shortstop. When it was time, they didn't get too proud there. Like Springer, they've had guys move on. We've just never seen them have to make those decisions at a deadline because they've been so good. But I don't know if it doesn't get figured out, if they can't get back to 500, by July, which they can, especially if any team can, they can. I don't think they'll end up being proud. And I do think you're right. They'd have a conversation with Alex Bregman. Like they've earned that. But I don't know if you're Alex Bregman and hopefully he starts turning things around. You'd like to think he'd love to be thrust into a moment where he could kind of turn around where his season's currently at. Guy with a ton of playoff experience. I don't know. And I think a lot of, hey, if you're listening about your team and you're going, you're trading away my Cardinals, we're about to get hot this week. Maybe you are. Also, maybe you aren't, because last year was buns, and now you're falling behind everyone again.
I have one team that, we talk about trades and like sellers, but what about like, what about teams looking to add? And Chris Rose has kind of been all over this, and the more and more he talks about it, the more I'm into it. The Baltimore Orioles, like they have too many position players. Like they have a AAA team that's like they're going nuts. So you can capitalize on that. Like you have all this capital in prospects. You don't have any room for them. You've drafted too well. You have too many guys there for to play. You have a plethora of outfielders sitting there, whether at the big league level or at the AAA level. Like those are the guys that have, less than a year of service time. The teams covet big time. You're talking about 6+ years of control. And what do the Orioles need? Like what do they need to improve their team? I mean, like when you're talking about a team like the Orioles, who is, we're getting it in the playoffs and we want to win in the playoffs. You need relievers to the max. So like a guy like Michael Kopech, who is really like figured it out with the White Sox. So their White Sox are probably out of contention. I think you declared him dead.
Jimmy has another team for Kopech. So back off.
White Sox have made a trade.
Oh,
Eric Fetty to the Rays.
Robbie Grossman back to the Rangers. White Sox get right-handed pitcher Anthony Hoopy Nuionatua.
We're going to bleep that out.
Yeah. Should.
In my video yesterday, I was going across all the people to trade off of the White Sox, and I went, Robbie Grossman? Nope.
Okay, well, I'm very
He's
curious.
having a tough year.
To think where you think Kopech goes. Can we just get into that, or is that later on in the show?
I did it with no bias. I scoured one team, thought about one team, and traded him to the Yankees. And that was without any bias and just thinking, I know what I know. The Yankees need relievers, and they have a lot of relievers coming off the board at the end of the year, so they need a stud to give them a year and a half. And they'll just change that 4-seam into a 2-seam and be good.
Just let it run.
No, that was a joke, obviously, for those that don't. I just chose the Yankees because I want that.
I think 100% that kid's going to go to a contender.
Say that in a more old man voice.
That kid's going to go
I think 100% that kid's 100%. Going to a contender.
I don't know how to do an old man voice.
Because you can't.
Well, I think, it's tough. Anyways, no, I watched this kid pitch, man. Like, he's like figured it out. Like, he throws the absolute shit out of the ball right now. He still needs, I honestly think he needs to be like challenged. He's one of these kids that's like, you better challenge this kid, because if he's not being challenged or he's not being told he's no good or there's not something pushing him, I don't think he performs. I think being with the White Sox has probably been the worst thing for his development, because what have they done? The leadership there has been nil. They've had, basically, no challenges throughout the season. He's had an up and down career, trying to be a starter, now he's in the bullpen. If this kid gets pushed and gets challenged and gets around guys that are like, hey man, this is the way, Shout out Mandalorian. He could turn into something really special during the playoffs. Like he has that type of arm talent. I mean, I saw him. He could be a little bit wild, but when he's around the strike zone, I mean, he's nasty this year. So I mean, I 100% expect him to be traded. I don't know where yet. The Orioles seem like a good fit to me, but really, as we know, any team that's looking to cause noise in the playoffs needs relievers.
You know what I'd do if I were the Angels? I'd pick up the phone now and try to take advantage of teams that want early trades before some of these guys that I value might go the opposite way. Like Simber's having a great year. I think one bad start. He needs a reliever. Hunter Strickland, they signed to a minor league deal. He's having a good start to a season in the bullpen. Go to the Rays. Go to whatever team just needs extra arms right now and just get something before it goes the other way. They also have Tyler Anderson. He's got this year and next year. Yep. Trade him to the Rays. The Dodgers made him awesome. The Rays will just make him awesome too. So if I was the Angels, I'd be on the phones now trying to like offload while some teams need immediate help and you have teams arms that are doing well.
Is that the way we're going? Like teams are like basically deciding already. It's May 8th. Hey, we know this isn't really our year. So let's go try to get as much value as possible. Because in years past or just in the past in general, it's always been like, well, let's wait till the trade deadline because everyone's more desperate then. And we can pit this team against this team and that team.
Well, I think
it's easier to do it now when you're like, hey, man, you can get this guy for 3 extra months. It's going to help your team. So come at us. I think it is easier on GMs to go do it now.
More teams are in now, and then there's that secondary window where they like go out at the last couple days. But the Angels have a less than 0.1% chance on Baseball Reference, and Fangraphs has them at less than 2% chance to make the playoffs. So they're not.
No.
Yeah.
I think I hope we see more of that. And I think, like you're saying, Trev, there's an easy sell both ways there. Like, but at the same time, if you're a team, just be open to that. Like, if you're not getting the trade you want for your guy, sure, wait to the deadline because then you can do the same thing. But if it's there, just go and then play some more young guys, and hopefully it restarts whatever you're trying to restart. Look how pesky those Nationals are starting to get down there in D.C. Jim, you mentioned you had no bias before. You know who doesn't have bias?
The U.S. government.
I think they have bias. AI. Artificial intelligence, and Black Box Sports AI is our favorite tool for getting an edge on MLB betting. They have an in-house algorithm. They're figuring out MLB outcomes. They hit at a 68% rate last year. They're at a 70% clip this year. I mean, real talk. I have a membership with them. I've been riding with them. Currently up a couple units. That's all I can say. I think they're up 9 units on the year. Let me double check. Yeah, they're up 9.28 units on this baseball season. Last night, they had Dodgers minus 1.5. That's, hey, I mean, I don't have to get into the analytics of the algorithm, but it sure did. It hit. So, hey, if you're in the sports gambling game, go check out Black Box Sports AI. It's the tool to bet MLB smarter. Get started today using code JOHNBOY at blackboxsportsai.com for $100 off the whole regular season subscription. And they have different various subscriptions if you want to check it out. But code JOHNBOY, blackboxsportsai.com. Click the link in the description. Check it out. I do also have to say before we start daydreaming of a couple more trades and fits potentially, Trev, I'm just picturing Ron Gardenhire right now, listening to you talk about a young player who needs to be challenged, who's got all this potential, and he's smoking his pipe and saying, I finally got through to him.
Yeah, I don't know if he smokes a pipe. Cigar, for sure.
Okay, stogies for Ron. Trev, who's you're a dreamer, late night Trev. What are some of the fun ones? Because you mentioned Bowden's article, and you said you had a couple up your sleeve. I didn't know if you were alluding to that with Arenado a little bit, or what else do you got?
Arenado's my guy that I've been thinking about. Where can this guy go? Because at first I was like, what's he doing? I know like it wasn't great last year, So I wanted to see like kind of where the stats have landed as of late. 774 OPS last year. I think some of the defensive metrics were down, but he's still at 26 homers, 93 runs driven in. He plays a good defense. You can't tell me that Nolan Arenado is not a plus defender. I'm sorry. Okay. So this guy, yes, he's 33 this year, but I believe there's still a lot of ball left, and he's a worker, man. Like he is. Talk to anybody that's played with him or against him, like they understand like the amount. Like he's a baseball rat. I love that. So I'm going around thinking, okay, who could use a third baseman who's under control? You don't want to he's not a rental. Like he's through 2027, he's locked up. And I mentioned the salary already, so it's a decent salary. You don't want to give him to a team that's at a CBT threshold that's going to push him over. I don't think that's the fit for him. I do have one team. I think this will be just an amazing left side of the infield. It's the Kansas City Royals. Nolan Arenado to the Kansas City Royals. Pretty young team. They have a veteran leader in Sal, but, it's always nice to add veteran leadership in that infield. Now, you can say, well, they have some guys there. Maikel Garcia is there. They have another guy named Caden Wallace, who they drafted in the second round a couple years ago, they think that's kind of like maybe their third baseman in the future. But those guys can move to other positions. Like you can get a guy who is, how many all-star teams has he made? Like he was MVP 3 just in 2022. Like there's good baseball left in this guy. And they have the payroll flexibility. They're a team on the rise. I just think that adding a guy like this to your roster can help you in so many different ways. Clearly, the results on the baseball field matter. I think he can add to that. But also just in the clubhouse, like the way he goes about things, I think he'd be such a compliment to Bobby Witt Jr. there and be such a great mentor for Bobby Witt Jr. there that it just makes a lot of sense to me. And the Cardinals, I think they have a lot of players, like they could replace him at third base. Mason Wynn has looked really good at shortstop. Like you have guys that you can plug and play at third base. And also, I don't know where the Cardinals are at with everything. I don't think I had them winning the Central this year. It already looked like it wasn't going to happen. And then Contreras is out now. I just don't think it's going to happen for him this year. And where do they see their window the next 2 or 3 years? I'm not really sure. But I know the Kansas City Royals think that they're about to open one up. And having a guy like Arenado go there and mentor and provide for you on the field, I think is really nice. And he seems like he's a middle America type player. I don't even want to see him on the coast. I want to see him stay in the Central. So Arenado to the Royals. I don't really have anyone going back. I'm not a prospect guy. You guys know
sure.
that. They can choose from the Royals prospects. I don't know who it's going to be, but I like the major league fit of Nolan Arenado playing third base next to Bobby Witt Jr. for the next 3 seasons, man. I like that a lot.
That would be something.
Royals fans mad at your Maikel Garcia.
Does he even have to move?
Disgrace.
He's having an okay year. I think I'd choose Nolan Arenado over him.
I think that could be fair. I think you can make that argument.
Thank you.
I think you can make that argument. What are the tea leaves showing you, Jim?
I'm hunting one right now that I might like. I'm trying to see the Tigers. They don't have good numbers versus right-handed starters. But I don't know the availability positionally that they have. Like who's locked up or not locked up in their outfield. They got Carpenter.
Riley Green, great.
Yeah, Riley Green's great. And Kerry Carpenter, he's been pretty good.
Carpenter can DH a lot too.
Center fielder.
Wenceel Perez kind of got the call, and he's been going. But I think they could find room in the outfield. Well,
DH is kind of locked up too.
Mark Hanna, Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, it's a chunk of it.
Yeah, I don't know if they fit. I'm trying to trade Jesse Winker. He's got signed in a 1-year deal by the Nats. I know the Nats are above 500 right now, but their playoff odds aren't great, and like going deep into the playoffs aren't great. And they got all these guys on 1-year deals, hoping that they can trade them, like Gallo, Winker, all this. Now Winker's going off; he's crushing right-handed pitchers. So I was trying to find a landing spot for that. You also got Trevor Williams on the Nats, who's having a really good year.
Been great, yeah.
And I know the Nats are above 500, so National fans might not want that. But I don't think they're good enough to not cash in on those two guys if they continue to perform like they are.
I like that. Maybe I know we talked about the double trade a little bit. Like if you try to buy and if it's not working, it's not working. Jesse Winker back to Cincinnati for a little bit now that he's grooving. That could be a fun little revival. And if they don't kick into gear, you can trade back.
They're 24th versus right-handed starters.
They just got Friedel back, and they're hoping that sparks their lineup.
Arizona is also down, but Carroll just homered, so hopefully he goes up. And they're not going to replace him, so it's hard to find. The Rays, Winker could be a Ray.
What I like about Winker is his stats now are back to his career norms. Yeah. Basically identical. His career is 369, 443 for an 813. This year he's 376, 432 for an 808.
What's going on in Seattle, Trev? Why do some guys absolutely love hitting there? Trout, Judge, Stanton come to mind, and some guys get traded there. Teoscar, and I think there was another one that recently said it and said like they hated hitting there. Is it righty, lefty?
Like there.
You did not? It seems to be polarizing where players either are like, I love it, or I get me out of here.
I think right field is reachable. So I don't know if lefties hit better there or not, but that seems like it's a fair, reachable fence line. But then center field, left center, and left field always seemed just big to me. It seemed like a big outfield. And I believe there's like the fence is uniformed like kind of like all the way around, so you can go up and get the ball. Pretty sure we were in Seattle last year, and I was looking at that when I was with the Twins broadcast. But no, I don't know if it was the pitching or just the way I felt in the box, but it always felt a little cold there. I remember that always feeling like the elements, like even though you could put the dome or the retractable roof up. Is it a retractable roof? It is, right? Yes. Elements weren't good for me there. I didn't see the ball particularly well, and it felt like a big outfield. So I don't know. My numbers I know are bad there. Could be just a combination of all of those things. But it wasn't a place where I was like, I can't see the ball. I don't know if I really had a place like that where I was like, I can't see the ball here. Certain times of the day at certain parks, but I don't recall Seattle being that way.
Okay, well, I just looked up last year the splits for the league. They now have it where like right-handed hitters at this park, left-handed hitters at this park. And out of the 60 different options there, right-handed hitters at Seattle was the lowest OPS out of all handedness and park combos last year, where left-handed hitters at Seattle was a 725 OPS, which was not top half, but like in the middle, but still below average.
Sure.
Okay. Lefties at Fenway, highest. Number 1.
Flick it off the monster.
Lefties at Fenway, love that.
And then lefties at Coors, number 2. Righties at Coors, number 3. Righties in Texas, number 4. Lefties in Cincinnati, number 5.
Safeco is your worst stadium, Trev.
So the guys I mentioned, Judge, Trout,
much
Seattle,
better everywhere else.
Easy power.
Easy power.
You don't have to worry about that.
They don't worry about all the things that you kind of said because they clear homers by a lot. So you have to be pretty much that like all-star player.
Go get Shohei.
Yeah.
Yeah, easy.
5 for 62, no extra base hits.
Holy shit.
That was
really?
I mean,
yeah.
King Felix. Times were different.
Didn't strike out excessively.
Nice.
You're getting it on
Who knows?
out there.
Couple fun ones for me. We started daydreaming this the other day. I think Jazz Chisholm trades are kind of fun. I think I think you could cover the whole spectrum. Like if he starts picking it up, which he has a little bit lately, do you throw him into the Blue Jays pool and just let the boys go nuts up there and figure it out?
I don't know about that.
That would be electric. I don't know if it would work. It'd be electric. I also like the Kansas City angle. Like you go from Miami to Kansas City, and there is already like a young core established there that maybe if Jazz feels like he's running with a core instead of like by himself. Or, I mean, the other daydream is him going to a veteran-laden squad where he's like the 8th hitter in the lineup. This would never happen because it's in division, but like if the Braves flipped Kelnick again and Jazz Chisholm was like their 8th hole left fielder and just tried to go super team, I think all of those end up being electric, and part of that is Jazz electricity. The other one that this won't happen, but it should happen, and it's been my qualm with this team, Paul Goldschmidt, rental to the Cleveland Guardians. Man, God, they need a righty bat. They need a first baseman. Like, it's literally perfect. But it won't happen because the Guardians don't put chips on the table.
That would be awesome. I would love to see that happen.
The top of their lineup is literally all lefties and Jose Ramirez switch.
Yeah, they just brought up Manzardo. He's a lefty as well.
You just put Naylor to DH?
Yeah. They've had
Paul Goldschmidt is like in an 0 for 29 or something like that right now. So I don't
Vibes have been bad there for a year and a half.
Get him out of there.
A little addendum on the stadiums. The year before it was switched where righties did better in Seattle and lefties did worse in the other year. So it seems personnel reasons.
Okay.
Being dead last for righties was last year seems like not the norm, but it is hard to hit there.
Okay.
Jazz Chisholm trade. I don't know, man. I don't know if people watch that interview. I don't know if you can go get that. I mean, dude openly said he didn't go to a practice for 4 years because he hated his teammates as a pride point. Like he said it like people were gonna like be like, "Damn, that's cool, man." The guys,
he thinks everyone loves him, and whatever he does is the coolest thing.
The guys interviewing him were like, "What? Why don't you think it's your responsibility to be with your teammates?" And he was like, "Nah, fuck them."
Did he say that?
Yeah. Did you not watch that full interview, Trev? I know it got clipped up and diced up. The full thing is insane. If I'm a GM, I am not bringing that to like my team. Just personally.
Well, there's the Blue Jay side of it is like, fuck it, we ball. And then there's, again, teams have always, the big teams that think that they can, you know, whether Dallas Cowboys in baseball, the old Yankees, like they used to bring in talented guys because you're going to fit in or that's it. That if there's an org that thinks that, I mean, Jazz Chisholm, he's making $2.5 million this year. He's starting to hit ARB. Like, I don't know. It's a value prop between Miami and whoever could potentially bring him in. Because if you get the best of a healthy Jazz Chisholm, there's great value. If you don't, it's tough.
He complained that they made him do like bus karaoke as a rookie. It's like Dallas Braden made us do. Like that's so fucking normal.
Everyone does that.
Everyone
it's not
does
great.
it.
I didn't want to do it, but you have to do it.
Yeah, I didn't want to do it.
Braden, I don't even know if they do that anymore, to be honest with you.
It's kind of corny now, but Dallas brought me up, and I hate singing. And I mean, I had to do it. I didn't feel attacked by. It was crazy. He was complaining about the shit that like what.
Listen to like any older player's rookie story.
I think hazing has gone too far at points, of course, and it's nicer when you welcome someone and you're friendly. I like the change, but what he was saying wasn't even the bad shit.
There's all that like that stuff is that all that is about is creating like team chemistry, like breaking down like your guard,
insecurities,
and, like saying we are one, and you can be yourself and be like we need this. We need to. Everybody on the same level. If you don't want to do it, I mean, then you're not on that level. I don't know. I was watching the game. The Dodgers are playing the Marlins, so Miggy Rowe versus Jazz. What was going to happen? Miggy Rowe starts talking crap to the dugout, and I was like, "Is that Jazz?" And I realized Jazz was in center field. And then afterwards, Miggy Rowe was like, "No, I'm just talking." That was me talking to my friend in the dugout. We're just joking around.
Miggy's like, "No, I have friends on my former teams."
Yeah, I'm curious. Like, if like was there an interaction? I probably not. Like I don't think they crossed paths, but well, no, Miggy was playing last night. Jazz did hit a homer. I wonder if Jazz looked at him going around the bases.
That's all squashed, man.
Oh, I love it. I just
you got
I'm
it.
A sucker for stuff like that.
Have you heard it, Trev? Can you hear this?
Like just leave him alone. Because he don't do nothing to none of y'all. I watch this kid all day. He comes to the field, he doesn't even practice. Like, that's the thing. Like, bro, my first 3 years of the big leagues, I didn't even practice. Why didn't you practice? What do you mean? Bro, I'm not there for you. Like, I'm not going to be around you guys, bro. Like, wow. I don't like y'all like that. Y'all don't like me. I don't like y'all, bro. When you saw me at the baseball field from 2020 to 2022, you would only see me from 2 p.m. to 3:10. And nobody's allowed to even be at the field at that time. So you wouldn't even see me. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly.
I work early.
So you don't have to be
the regular team schedule practice was at 3:45 to 5. The game's at 6:40. You see me at 2 to 3. I'll go after 2 to 3 o'clock. I'm sleeping the whole day until the game starts. Literally, you could ask any of my teammates. 2022 season, 2021 season, 2020 season. Never saw my face. No fan even saw me outside of there.
Trev, as a player in the big leagues for multiple years, your reaction to that?
I don't know how to react to that, to be honest with you.
Neither did the guys interviewing him. They're just like,
Like, okay, there are times, especially now, it's changed. There's so much more own program type guys out there, and it's more acceptable to be own program to a certain extent. But if you're completely alienating yourself from a team, I mean, yeah, it's going to cause, it's going to ruffle some feathers in the clubhouse. And I don't even believe him. I am going to ask people that were on the team, Jazz. I'm going to ask people and see what they say, because you work from 2 to 3, which means you were in the cage and maybe you went into the training room a little bit, but you didn't participate in team. You didn't hit batting practice. You didn't take ground balls on the field. Like, I'm calling false on that. Like, there's no way that for your rookie year, your sophomore year, and your third year, you didn't ever hit batting practice or go take ground balls or fly balls on the field. No way that happened. No way.
Yeah. I felt bad because Miggy, the public was kind of siding with Jazz over Miggy, but the actual interview didn't get actually clipped up to hear it. And what? Dude's bragging about never being part of the team.
I've said this before on Jazz. He's an average ball player. He's not a spectacular ball player. And look, you can come at me and say all you want. I knew what kind of ball player I was. I was average, okay? I never thought, hey, I should get my own shoe from Jordan, which is what he thinks. I never thought I should be on the cover of a video game. I don't know how that happened. But he hasn't earned any of that. That's the truth, dude. I don't know.
He needs a full season, because his past 3 years, if you do the 162 game averages, he's a 32 homer, 35 steal guy. So he can have that, but he hasn't done it.
Right now, your guys' career slash lines are very similar. 245 batting average for him, 242 for you, 306 on base for him, 304 for you, 447 slug for him, 410 for you, 754 OPS, 714 for you.
I should have been a better hitter. Shoot.
Ah, dude, just take away that Philly. That was bullshit anyway.
Seattle games don't
2022
count.
he played 60 games in 2022. And that was his best year, 860 OPS. And hey, if you're an 860 OPS guy all the time, you talk your shit. But for 60 games, I don't know, man.
I agree with Jake. Send him
I would
to the
never
Blue
come
Jays.
at a guy like this unless he was outwardly saying stuff like Jazz does. You're I don't know, man. I honestly don't even care. But sometimes when I hear it, I have to react to it, and here I am.
Sorry for playing it for you. I knew it upset you, because it upset me, and I'm not even a ball player of any sort. It was just bizarre.
Miggy Rowe and Jazz Chisholm. Baseball's Kendrick and Drake beef continues tonight. Make sure you tune in, or just watch your team and tell us what else we should know about your team. Tell us who would be the good trade fit, or tell us who you're trying to trade away, or what we missed. We will see you guys back Friday
Just watched the Jazz homer from last night. Biggie Rowe wasn't in the game at the time. He defensive replaced later.
Works. Baseball today with Chris Rose.
You missed a great Jake Sucks the other day, Jimmy. I had Isla in here sick, and she came and just crushed Jake's soul.
You've never seen a happier human.
She's like, I can say sucks. I'm like,
as long as it's at the ugly man.